On the news, Amnesty International counters Nigerian military, says there is evidence of extrajudicial killings in Southeast. Nigeria's inflation rate drops for the fourth consecutive time to 21.8%. And Peter Obi asks supporters to vote African Democratic Congress in by-elections. It's a pleasure to have you join News Now on TV360 Nigeria. I'm Okpeyemi Owosheni. Amnesty International says it has gathered concrete evidence, including names and addresses of individuals allegedly killed extrajudicially by the Nigerian military in the southeast. The organization's country director, Issa Sanusi, made a disclosure during a televised interview, calling for justice and a thorough investigation into the reported violations. His latest report, titled "A Decade of Impunity: Attacks and Unlawful Killings in Southeast Nigeria," Amnesty accused the Nigerian military, the police, and non-state actors of widespread human rights abuses, documenting over 1,800 deaths between January 2021 and June 2023. The report also details torture, enforced disappearances, and arbitrary arrests, many of which allegedly occurred during security operations targeting suspected IPOB or ESN strongholds. However, the Defense Headquarters has rejected the allegations. The Director of Defense Major Operations, Major General Marcus Kange, said the military does not engage in extrajudicial killings and dismissed the report as biased. And Nigeria's headline inflation rate declined to 21.88% in July 2025, down from 22.22% in June. Now that, according to the latest Consumer Price Index report released by the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS). This marks the fourth consecutive disinflation recorded in 2025. The NBS attributed the drop to a 0.34% decrease when compared to the previous month's rate. Now, year-on-year, the headline inflation rate was 11.52% lower than the 33.40% recorded in July 2024. However, on a month-on-month basis, inflation rose slightly to 1.99% from 1.68% in June, indicating a higher rate of price increase within the month. Food inflation, however, remained a concern, rising to 22.74% year-on-year, up from 21.97% in June 2025. To politics now, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 elections, Peter Obi, has implored his supporters to vote for the African Democratic Congress (ADC) in the forthcoming by-elections. In a post published via his X page, Obi, a member of the ADC-led coalition, said his decision was due to the Labour Party having no candidate recognized by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) on the ballot paper amid an internal crisis. The electoral umpire excluded the names of Labour Party candidates from its list on the 2nd of August, a move that has prompted a protest march to the Commission's Abuja headquarters last week. The Usman faction has described INEC's decision as a relief, insisting the electoral body will soon publish what it calls the authentic list of Labour Party candidates. Meanwhile, the Julius Abure faction of the Labour Party has faulted Peter Obi's endorsement, accusing him of undermining the party and its authority. Well, earlier on, I spoke with political affairs analyst Jide Ojo, and I began by asking him if Peter Obi's endorsement is a calculated shift in response to the Labour Party leadership turmoil, and what it signals for his future alliances.
Well, I think Peter Obi is doing what is expected of him. Obviously, the Abure-led leadership is not recognized by INEC. Even after the protest they had at the INEC headquarters, INEC has refused to honor the list of nominations by Labour Party under Abure. And unfortunately, the Nandadi Usman's faction seems not to have conducted any primaries. Or if it has, INEC decides to play neutral, since they could not agree on who are the authentic leaders of the party. So the next thing that Peter Obi could do is to see how he could throw his weight behind the ADC candidates, at least if he could sway the voters to support ADC, that could strengthen his hands in the negotiation for the ticket of ADC as ADC's presidential candidates come next year. So it's a strategic move, but I don't know whether this will amount to much, given the fact that even ADC itself is embroiled in a kind of leadership crisis as we speak.
Now, the Abure-led Labour Party faction has now pushed back hard against Obi's directive, maintaining that Labour Party candidates are contesting and accusing Peter Obi of misleading the base. Now, do you think this dispute could undermine the party's credibility and fracture its ranks as 2027 nears?
Of course, a house divided against itself cannot stand. That's why I'm telling you that whether the Abure-led faction or Nenadi Usman's faction, they are both losers in this whole game. Because when brothers fight to death, it's only strangers that inherit their father's estate or property. As it were, whether the Nenadi or Nenadi Usman or Julius Abure's factions, none of them is going to make any political gain out of this. Labour Party from time immemorial has been a fringe party. It has been a fringe party before Peter Obi came in. The best it has won has been the governor of Ondo State. That's Olusegun Mimiko for 2 terms. Now, in spite of Peter Obi's movement into the party, the biggest achievement they've had is also to get Alex Otti of Abia State elected as governor. So the main prize, which is the presidency, has eluded Labour Party, despite being in existence for over 20 years. And as it were, despite the Supreme Court judgments early this year, they have decided to work at cross purposes, and that will be their undoing. Not only in this forthcoming by-elections, but even in the Anambra governorship election in November, and subsequently ahead of 2027 and beyond.
Well, that was political affairs analyst Jide Ojo lending his thoughts on Peter Obi asking his supporters to vote for ADC candidates in the forthcoming by-elections. Well, let's now head to Borno State, where amid ongoing security challenges in parts of the state, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has announced plans to move the 2025/26 continuous voter registration exercise for some local government areas to Maiduguri. At a press briefing, the State Resident Electoral Commissioner Abubakar Ahmed explained that the move is necessary to protect both citizens and electoral officials while ensuring that residents from Abadam, Guzamala, Katabaoje and Mate do not lose their right to register. Majiri assured that INEC will treat all eligible voters fairly, regardless of displacement or distance, emphasizing that no barrier should prevent citizens from exercising their right to vote.
These registration areas, like we stated, is the issue of security, safety of persons, both the citizens, our staff, and the lives and properties of all peoples. The total number of uncollected voters card is 66,317, if give or take. 317, and this from the previous registration exercise or exercises. Let's say from previous exercises, but most probably, and those reasons could largely be due to this insurgency or the floods and other human factors like that. But the Commission is still in custody of these items, and we are ready to issue them out to their owners.
And ahead of its national elective convention scheduled for November 15th and 16th in Ibadan, Oyo State, the People's Democratic Party has inaugurated a 44-member zoning committee, charging it to make decisions that will shape the party's future and restore public confidence. At the inauguration ceremony in Abuja, the acting national chairman, Umar Damagom, said the panel chaired by Bayelsa State Governor Doyejiri would ensure fairness in allocating national working committee positions. He stressed the committee's recommendations would not only determine the distribution of party officers, but also indicate which geopolitical zone might get the PDP's 2027 presidential ticket. In other stories now, the former governor of Sokoto State and senator representing Sokoto South, Aminu Tambuwal, has vowed not to be silenced by what he described as intimidation and blackmail following his release on bail by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. The EFCC had quizzed Tambuwal and detained him for a night over alleged 189 billion naira fraud. He was, however, later released on administrative bail. Tambuwal will return to Sokoto on Thursday to a hero's welcome for thousands of supporters, address the cheering crowd at his residence, pledging to continue the fight for equitable and democratic governance in the state. The EFCC said it was probing Tambuwal over alleged misappropriation of 189 billion naira during his tenure as governor. But the opposition African Democratic Congress described the timing of the investigation as a political witch hunt aimed at weakening opposition forces ahead of the 2027 presidential election. Moving on to other stories now, the Nigerian government says about 3.8 trillion naira will be required to rehabilitate the Third Mainland Bridge in Lagos following the discovery of severe underwater structural damage. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, disclosed this on Wednesday while briefing State House correspondent after the Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Bola Tinubu in Abuja. According to Umahi, underwater assessments conducted in 2013 and 2019 on both the Qatar and Third Mainland bridges revealed significant substructural deterioration caused by illegal sand mining, erosion, and corrosion of piles and pillars.
For Third Mainland Bridge, nobody submitted any proposal, but the same problem of underwater problems, in Qatar Bridge, the same thing with the Third Mainland Bridge. And when we did a prorata of, what is to be done, if we are to rehabilitate, it came to about 3.8 trillion. And if we are to do a new construction, it came to about 3.6 trillion. And so we approached, Federal Executive Council and say, look, give us approval, to do two things under EPC plus F, to allow not less than 7, specialist contractors to undertake comprehensive investigation, comprehensive design, and a bidding to reconstruct it, brand new bridges, or to, do rehabilitation of these two bridges.
And in Lagos, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has called for a unified, adaptable and accessible building code to curb the menace of building collapses across Nigeria, stressing that safety in the built environment must become a collective responsibility. The governor made a call at a one-day sensitization program on constant building collapse in Nigeria and the launch of the Lagos Certified Structural Integrity Program, organized by the Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development in collaboration with the Lagos State Government at Tafawa Balewa Square. Governor Sanwo-Olu commended the Federal Ministry for its foresight and commitment, noting that Lagos had recorded a sharp reduction in building collapse incidents in the last year due to proactive measures such as stricter enforcement of building codes, public awareness campaigns, and technology-driven monitoring.
Lagos is a city of ambition, and it has rapid growth. But with growth comes the duty to ensure that the safety of life and property is paramount. That is why we must move from reactive responses to proactive strategies. We must ensure that the root causes of building collapse, which may include substandard material, engagement of unqualified professionals, non-adherence to approved building plans, and absence or delay in obtaining approval, corruption in the permit and monitoring process.
Still in Lagos, the state government has launched the pilot phase of its Identifier project, a comprehensive digital addressing system designed to transform houses numbering and street naming across the state. The initiative, set to begin in Ikeja, was unveiled during the Nigeria Land Titling Registration and Documentation Program. TV360 correspondent Faith Joseph has the details.
The Identifier project aims to assign a unique digital identity to every building in Lagos State, using QR codes and local government-specific color makings. The initiative is described to improve investigation for emergency respondents, utility providers and residents, while enhancing security and service delivery. Speaking at the unveiling, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu says the project will enhance urban development and help Lagos keep pace with global smart city standard.
We're here to host a very critical gathering, the Nigerian Land Titling Registration and Documentation Program. We see this as a strategic platform which is meant to address one of the most significant developmental challenges facing not just our state, but our entire country. Like the Honorable Minister said, I was even generous that it was over 10% of the land, but the Minister says it's even much less than that have been formally registered, while a larger percentage, 90% and over, are completely undocumented. As noted by the Honorable Minister, this gap has long constrained economic growth, and it has deepened poverty. It has hindered effective planning at all levels. All of the, great goodwill messages is the same thing from all of the commissioners. All of us have seen that there is a need, for each and every one of us to come together and let us be able to solve this.
The Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Ahmed Dangiwa, announced plans to increase land title coverage to 50% within the next decade, as part of the effort to unlocking Nigerian economic potential through land ownership.
It seeks to turn land from a dormant asset into a productive engine for prosperity, for individuals, for states, and for Nigeria as a whole. It is designed to replace our fragmented, opaque, and paper-based system with digitized, transparent, and efficient national framework. The objectives are clear. We want a secure land rights for individuals, communities, and businesses.
Also speaking, Special Advisor on EGIS Urban Development, Olajide Babatunde, described the Identifier project as a major step towards modernizing Lagos state infrastructure, help improve security, boost revenue generation, and increase efficiency of government service delivery.
What we're doing today is we're talking about land titling, land documentation, land record, land archiving. We need to manage land properly as a result, because countries that have managed their lands properly are rich, and those that have not managed their land properly are poor. So land management starts from being able to capture, ownership, not just ownership, also having title documentation and surveys.
Once fully implemented, the Identifier project is set to transform how properties are located, documented, and serviced in Lagos State, turning address into gateway to smart, more connected urban living. Faith Joseph, TV360, Lagos.
We'll go on a short break here, but still to come on news now. South Korea to restore pact, halting military activity on North Korea border. Details of the story after this break. Welcome back. Let's take you through a recap of our top stories. Amnesty International says it has gathered concrete evidence, including names and addresses of individuals allegedly killed extrajudicially by the Nigerian military in the southeast. The organization's country director, Issa Sanusi, disclosed this during a televised interview, calling for justice and a thorough investigation into the reported violations. We also informed you that the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 elections, Peter Obi, has implored his supporters to vote for the African Democratic Congress (ADC) in the forthcoming by-elections. In a post published by his X page, Obi, a member of the ADC-led coalition, said his decision was due to the Labour Party having no candidate recognized by the INEC on the ballot amid an internal crisis. Now, in case you missed any of our news bulletin or for more updates, you can catch us on Limex World TV and AVO TV, or log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on X, Instagram and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria, or download our mobile app on Google Play Store, Huawei App Gallery and Apple Store. On Facebook, we are TV360 Online.
In the last 3 years, we have built a multi-purpose center, which is the envy of all in our constituency. And I can tell you that the people who are living there are already enjoying it.
Guy, do you think what this man just said is true? See, I seriously doubt. I'm sure it's one of those their silly lies.
Wait, do you know there's a way to find out if these things he's saying is true or not? This is the Construct app. It gives people like us a sure way to track implementation of constituency projects. It gives valid and verified information on location of projects, amounts allocated, amount funded, the level of job done, and even the profiles of concerned legislators. You and I can post directly on this app.
Are you serious?
This is the Go-To app if you want to know how our Commonwealth is being expanded by the government.
Wow. Let's even see if what this man said is true. Show me.
The Construct app is developed by Other People Nigeria with support from USAID and is available on both Google Play Store and Apple Store.
And it's true.
Of course, I told you.
And in the world of business, the Center for Social Justice, in collaboration with the Fiscal Responsibility Commission, has held a validation meeting of the Fiscal Responsibility Code, seeking to provide practical guidelines for the implementation of the provisions of the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2007 and to ensure that operators of the fiscal space align themselves to the provisions of the Act. As part of the implementation of the European Union Rule of Law and Anti-Corruption Project, the code covers all provisions of the FRA from the Medium-Term Expenditure Framework, budget preparation, implementation and reporting, as well as procurement, fiscal transparency. Speaking, the Executive Chairman of the Fiscal Responsibility Commission called for the swift validation of the newly developed Fiscal Responsibility Code of Conduct, describing it as an indispensable tool for enforcing the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2007.
The Fiscal Responsibility Code of Conduct is therefore designed to achieve the following objectives: to help reduce or mitigate multiple risks associated with public finance management, including budget fraud, corruption, and other sundry infractions of the provisions of the Act, from the preparation of medium-term expenditure framework, budgetary planning, to budget passage and implementation. It will also strengthen and increase accountability and transparency in fiscal and financial decisions making and budget execution, ensuring that all public officials are held accountable for their actions and decisions.
For us at the Bureau of Public Service Reforms, the principles of fiscal responsibility are integral to our mandate of driving reforms that promote efficiency, effectiveness, and value for money in the delivery of public service. A robust fiscal responsibility code will serve as a practical guide for ministries, departments, and agencies, ensuring that public resources are managed prudently, leakages are minimized, and service delivery enhanced.
Our chairman, in his own screening, if you recall, at the National Assembly, he has stressed the need for prevention. We shouldn't be always waiting for it to happen before we can always delve in, investigate, prosecute, collect the assets, confiscate the assets and other things.
We'll go on a short break now and be back with updates from the stock markets. Welcome back. Now, the Nigerian equities market recorded its third decline of the week on Friday, with the market declining by 0.46%. Now, we see a total of 129 equities participating in trading, ending on a negative note as 30 stocks advanced and 39 stocks declined. Lasako Assurance came out last with an end-of-the-day price appreciation of 10% at 4 naira 5 kobo per share. It was followed closely by International Energy Insurance, which also witnessed a 10% decline. Now, by the end of the session, over 1.4 million shares exchanged hands across 32,057 deals, worth more than 13.9 billion naira. A very busy day, but clearly weighed down by the losses. Now, over to the global market, it was a day of mixed trading as the United States Dow Jones and Japan's Nikkei recorded a bullish movement. It's a different case, however, for the UK FTSE as it closed in the red. Now, moving on to the Forex, the Naira traded at 1,550 Naira to the United States dollars on the black market, 2,110 Naira to the pound and 1,790 Naira to the euros, still under pressure across the board. And moving on to the foreign scene, South Korea has said it intends to restore an agreement suspending military activity along its border with North Korea and revive inter-Korean cooperation, as President Lee Jae-myung attempts to dampen foreign tensions over Pyongyang's nuclear program and deepening ties with Russia. Marking the 80th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japanese colonial rule on Friday, Lee said he will seek to restore the so-called September 19th military agreement and rebuild trust with North Korea. Lee also added that his government will not pursue any form of unification by assumption and has no intention of engaging in hostile acts against his northern neighbor. And at least 194 people have died in the last 24 hours in heavy monsoon floods and landslide in Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir. Most of the deaths, 180, were recorded by disaster authorities in the mountainous province in northwest Pakistan, and at least 30 homes were destroyed and a rescue helicopter crashed during operations, killing its 5 crew members. Government forecasters say heavy rainfall was expected until 21st of August in the northwest of the country, where several areas have been declared disaster zones. And finally, on sports, Nigeria's women's basketball team, the Tigress, has risen to 8th in the latest FIBA Women's World Rankings, propelled by their historic performance at the 2025 FIBA Women's AfroBasket. This marks a significant leap from their previous 11th position, solidifying their status as Africa's basketball powerhouse. The updated rankings reflect Nigeria's climb of 3 spots to 8 with 640.1 points, making them the only African team ever to break into the global top 10. And that's up our news bulletin on News Now at this time. Many thanks for joining us. I'm Okpayemi Owosheni. See you next time.